Welcome to Leicestershire. Welcome to Castle Donington. Welcome to England. This is the final round of the season, the final chance to score some vital points to boost yourself up. And with a title battle which is all but wrapped up at the moment, just needs a nice little bow put on the top. This could go adversely in a Formula E style way. We're in Pro Mazdas today. The 60+ racing adventures are at Donington Park, full course here on iRacing Live, brought to you by RaceSpotTV. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I, of course, am #DoYouMind, Jake Sperry, the observer of sim racing, joined with a Scotsman turned Swede at the moment here with Neil Heatley. Neil, I believe you're now one of only 3 exports that Sweden has.
Yes, one of only 3 exports that Sweden has. You can try and guess what the other 2 are. I'll leave that up to your imagination. But yes, here we are at the Donington Grand Prix circuit, a very, very historic circuit. 4.02 kilometres long, 2 races tonight, 20 laps each, and you're going to be in for a lot of fun.
Qualifying is currently underway. You've got 10 minutes or 2 laps, whichever comes first. And as things stand in qualifying, there is nobody out on track on a flying lap, and I don't think anybody in the next 30 seconds or so will have the ability to get around to make that happen. So the grid is pretty much all but secured then for this 23-car finale. We can run down through that grid and tell you exactly where people stand. Championship leader needs just 4 points to secure a title. That's Stefan Rosgen on pole position, 124.034. Bill Lawrence is alongside in second. Mark Robertson and Stephen Karkner are third and fourth, with Andrew Fiddler in fifth, and John Unsby, who needs to get wins in both races tonight to negate as much as he can, in sixth place. John Morgan starts seventh, with Kenneth Baldwin in eighth. Richard Coulomb from ninth, with Gerard Florison rounding out the top 10. Then you find Joel Martin and Remigo de Pasqua on the 6th row. Franz Brink and David Riley are on row 7, with Gianni Rispaldo and Mark Lusson in row 8. Row 9 will see Bob Kern and William Stark, with Wally Molesby and Ralph Kemmerer in 19th and 20th place. Richard Valley will start from 21st, more akin to a spec racer Ford, and 3 drivers will not set lap times here in this one. Jos van der Ven, surprisingly, Larry Tolles and PJ Sally as well. 24 vehicles then today will be looking to get themselves up onto the grid and get ourselves ready for 20 laps around a Donington Park circuit, which often gets overlooked and is quite underrated in how good it can be for action. The likes of the British Touring Car Championship, of course, formerly a Formula 1 venue in the early 90s. But, Neil, it has to be said, Donington Park, probably one of the staples of British motorsport.
Yes, one of the staples of British motorsport. It's been on the calendar of many different British years, including superbikes as well. Motorcycles race here as well, so 2 and 4 wheels. But coming down the hill, all the way down the Craner curves, down to the old hairpin, it's fantastic fun. And of course, you've got this very, very interesting section towards the end of the lap. The Grand Prix loop with that left-right chicane and the double hairpin is very, very different to the rest of the track. So that provides a couple of different challenges, and of course a couple of big braking zones for you to make one of those all-important moves.
It's almost like having a bee sting on the national circuit, which you normally see raced in certain styles of racing. But 2 minutes to grid up before we get ourselves on the rolling start here behind the iRacing roof first safety car before we get ourselves underway. The 60 of Rosgen has been faultless pretty much all season long, and the worst thing about this championship for John Unsby is going to be that he needs 4 points in either of the 2 races. They are exactly the same worth of points, exactly the same distance. But the thing is, if he scores just 4 points in the championship today, that secures it. Stefan Rosgen would be champion here. It's also worth talking about the fact that Rosgen has missed a couple of rounds this season instead of John Unsby, who has been at every single one this year. But this is a circuit where overtaking is available, especially out of the Fogarty S's and down here into the hairpin, this almost add-on parking lot in styled hairpin. It's almost as if they forgot that, okay, we need to put a little bit of grass on the ends there, as it just feels so unnatural compared to everywhere else. But Goddard's the final corner out on track. Always the opportunity for the switchback on the final lap. Off camber as well will always make life difficult. But for Stefan Rosgen, he gives a gap to the pace car, who's looking to dive down onto pit road, and we'll get going. Green flag comes up, and we are underway then for 20 laps worth of action. Bill Lawrence waiting for the start-finish line and really did have the run, but had to check up around the outside then at Redgate. Turn number 1, not going to get the move on Rosgen. Behind, though, you got Fiddler and Karkner going at it together. They're not going to be close enough to make things happen, so they head down the Craner curves. For the very first time here in this event, everybody is clean through the starters. The last 2 drivers get themselves through. Old hairpin, though, good for now here, Neil.
Yeah, just having a look on the fade, there's a couple of cars off in the braking zone towards the Craner curves. I believe, I'm just having a look to see if I can see which ones there are. I can't quite believe David Riley may well be one of them. But yes, the championship leader, Stefan Rosgen, the Season 5 champion, looks like he's going to be regaining that crown here in Season 7, as there's more contact in the back going onto the back straight.
There is. William Stark has gone off on his own as well, so a lot of drivers are struggling here at Donington Park, especially at the rear of this field, and some very, very interesting driving. John Unsby, though, has made his way through on Andrew Fiddler, so he's made a good move. But where, oh where, did Karkner go? And the answer is Karkner just went around at Coppice. He caught Fiddler, and luckily for Unsby, he has got around all of that. So John Unsby dodging a bullet, but going up to 4th position. But the gap at the front already almost 1 second then on the opening lap. Rosgen leads, Lawrence, Robertson, Unsby, Fiddler, and then John Morgan as well. Your top 6 as things stand. Nice little battle, though, in the middle of the pack here. Franz Brink maybe trying to get himself forward in the train. Gerard Florison, Joel Martin, and behind him, Ramigo de Pasqua, all searching for opportunities just to find a bit of weakness, and a great run through the old hairpin for Franz Brink here, Neil, as he makes his way up to McLean's corner on the brakes, up the hill, searching, but running far too aggressive on the brakes, and Franz Brink, well, almost on the brink of taking Florison out of this event altogether.
Yeah, went all the way through the gravel. He's got the 4 car to Pasqua there on the inside. He's been edged out again, which means the number 67 car of Richard Coulomb goes up the inside as they come along the back straight. But yes, what happened to Karkner is that he just lost the rear end, got contact with Fiddler, then poor Richard Coulomb had absolutely nowhere to go and just T-boned him straight in the side. That caused Karkner to DNF from 4th place in this race. But it seems like Coulomb has quite a bit of front wing damage there.
Yes, he does.
Franz Brink losing all of that time and losing all of those places.
He is, and there's a driver making his way up through the field, and that's Jos van der Ven, who started in 22nd place. He was up to 14th after the end of the opening lap, and after the end of the second lap, he is now up into 13th position, just 9/10 of a second behind the aforementioned Brink, who is trying to stay with Richard Coulomb just for the moment. Gap at the front opens up, though, 2.1 seconds at the moment. Not ideal, but Unsby under pressure now. Championship implications as Andrew Fiddler looks for the inside. That will turn to the outside at McLean's, and he had to back out of it there. Only just enough room there to make that one work, and fortunately enough for Andrew Fiddler, he will have another opportunity. But look at who's there. 3rd in championship, John Morgan gets a much better run, actually, heading through Coppice Corner, and now he'll have the chance at the Fogarty S's. Maybe thinking about going to the inside. You've got to be because it is one-line chicane, not close enough, waiting for a better chance. And look at Fiddler now here, Neil.
You can see the left-hand side of Fiddler's front wing very, very bent after that contact with Karkner in the first lap that he has. Trying to have a look at that 101 car on the 61 of John Unsby. Of course, John Unsby has already won the Super 70s Championship by quite a margin, actually. So he's looking to see if he can just gain the overall championship. It's going to be very, very difficult for him, especially considering that Stefan Roskin now has a 3.1 second lead over Mark Robertson as they come into Red Gate to begin their fourth lap. Now diving down the corner curves to the fastest point on the track for these Pro Masses, the right and left, very, very fast. We've seen many accidents down here through the years to about to 220 kilometers an hour before they start braking for the old hairpin. But something to look out for in a few laps time is that these 20 lap races have a compulsory pit stop. We saw it last time RaceSpot covered the 60 Plus Racing Adventure Series at Watkins Glen. That pit stop strategy proved pivotal in both races. The question is, will it do so again today?
Will it do so indeed? Side by side, Mark Lyson and Richard Valley going at it, and it is Valley who defends well into the right-hander, but there's a certain PJ Sally trying to get in, loses the rear as David Riley now will take advantage and dive down the inside up into Coppice Corner. And for Richard Valley there, maybe a little bit over-aggressive on the defense, struggling with the car in qualifying, wasn't able to get a lap that he was happy with, but here's Sally back again looking for a move, and you can see heavily braking out of it to try and get through and not working the way that he wants that car to work, it seems.
Not working at the moment, certainly, as they come down towards the first of the hairpins. And you can see David Riley's rear wing is actually very squint, to put it another way, on that number 14 car, so we have to look at what damage that will have in the future in this race. But yes, coming around to finish their fourth lap, and it looks like the David Riley's coming in this time by.
It does look that way, so David Riley's going to go for an early stop here, lap 5 of 20, and maybe a little bit too early for my liking, but the battle for second right now. Robertson against Lawrence here, in a wide line from Robertson, and Lawrence sitting up for the move at Coppice, but not able to find it just yet. It's got to try and pick apart the line of Robertson. It's going to have to rely on a good run out of here, and especially a good run at the Fogarty S's. Slow in to fast out is what he will be looking for. Brings the gap down to 1/10 of a second before heading through the left and the right. Dirty air effect coming into play, costing him maybe about half a car length, maybe a full car length onto the brakes, into the hairpin. There's a big lunge down the inside. A lot of room being given there by the certain Mark Robertson, and Bill Lawrence now up into second with that move there, Neil.
Yes, a big lunge into the hairpin there. And as you're seeing on the replay now, just on the right-hand side, all the way in, you could tell that Mark Robertson left quite a bit of room there for Bill Lawrence. Of course, Bill Lawrence won last season here at the 60 Plus Racing Adventure Series, not retaining that crown this time by. But you could see from the qualifying times that Roskin and Lawrence were so much faster than everyone else, almost 8/10 faster than everyone else. But the problem is now that Lawrence has 5.5 seconds to try and make up on Roskin, and that's no easy feat.
No, it's no easy feat for 5 seconds, and 5 seconds, well, Rosgen running low 124s, 124 flat last time by. Bill Lawrence last lap did a 1:25.7, so that's a full 1.7 seconds slower a lap. That's how quick Rosgen is. Still got Unsby versus Fiddler versus Morgan at the moment out on track. And what is exciting about the damage that Fiddler has as he outshoots himself into the Fogarty S's. He's done well not to hit anyone in that situation. I was going to say, with the damage on Fiddler's front wing, I can't wait for iRacing's new damage model to come into effect, as he now has to try and defend this one against Stephen Karkner, who they've already tangled with so far in this event. Good run out to the exit for Karkner as he gets the inside at Goddard. Can he make sure that the move is complete? And he just about manages to get it, but there is a cutback for Fiddler. That new damage model, it won't just be front wings that will be falling off vehicles when that crops up. It will be whole tyres as well, thanks to the 10 years package that we saw from iRacing there, Neil.
Yes, that position for Stephen Karkner, Karkner currently a lap down after that first lap incident, so it is just for pride, this battle at the moment. But yes, Andrew Fiddler, it seemed like he almost completely missed his braking point coming into the Fogarty S's that time around, and had to take massive avoiding action, so he didn't ramp all the way back up the back of John Unsby. But for that battle for 4th position now, it is a battle of the Johns. Unsby versus Morgan as they come onto the back straight now on their 7th lap of this race. Now to the 2nd fastest part of the track. They get up to about 215 kilometres an hour before they need to brake hard down to about 130 for the Fogarty S, then up towards the first of the 2 hairpins.
Yeah, and that's very, very crucial for John Unsby. He got a fantastic run through the chicane, and that has opened up the hairpin for him to just have a bit of breathing room against John Morgan, and that breathing room may as well be a breathalyzer test at the moment for Captain Morgan, because he's failing it at every opportunity to get back closer to John Unsby as Unsby continues to pull away. Side by side, they're a little further back. Remigio de Pasqua in the 4 against Gerard Florison in the 7. Florison takes a much different line. It was an opened up exit for de Pasqua as he looks to try and get through. Andrew Fiddler dives down onto the lane on lap 8. Also on the lane is Larry Thomas, who has not done well. De Pasqua looking for the inside, not finding it here as Gerard Florison holds on just at least to the old hairpin.
Holding on for now, but yes, there are so many different lines you can take through that hairpin. It's rather like the double hairpin halfway through Circuit Park Zandvoort as well. There's just so many different lines that you can take through there, and it all depends on what your preferred driving style is. But you can see de Pasqua is closing up massively on the back of Florison now. They've got to be careful for Richard Coulomb just sitting there behind if anything should happen to these two. But across the crest of the hill now, this very, very difficult blind corner turning is completely blind, and it seems like the 7 car Florison went very, very wide. Now they're side by side coming down to the S.
They are, and well, Florison on the inside needs to be a brave driver, and he tried to be brave, but he wasn't brave enough, and now he's compromised the exit. This is going to open up Richard Coulomb's opportunity here to think about the inside. The battle now for 10th position out on track, and not close enough there as it was a much more aggressive break from Florison, who almost found the rear of de Pasqua. Rochechen, though, staying out for another lap here at the end of lap number 8. Any takers then onto pit road in this early stage? The answer is yes. And Gerard Florison on cue dives in, and he was very close there, was Coulomb, to running right into the rear, because that pit entry is right on the exit of the final corner. You have to be really alert, especially in open formula cars like these ones, Neil, to know what the driver in front is doing.
Yes, that was it. The pit entry is quite dangerous, actually, as you see that Florison has exited now. That stopped 10.2 seconds for the Dutch driver. But yes, it's a very, very interesting pit entrance, especially when you're so close like that, especially when you're battling as close as that. And it looks like that Gerard Florison has cycled back out. He now has Jos van de Ven ahead, so he cycled back out in 16th place by the looks of it.
By the looks of things, indeed, and Fiddler's trying to make his way past Larry Thomas, who's multiple laps down now. Van de Ven has also come down in and made his stop, so that is for position as Larry Thomas is off in the gravel. Out of that is at McLean's corner. I think he's just waiting for a clear entry point as Ralph Kemmerer goes for the second spin in half a lap. He had one earlier on in the lap, and that was at the final corner of Goddard's. Here at McLean's corner, he gets himself caught up as Marc Lisson also goes for an off-track excursion as he went straight around coming out of Coppice. That vehicle did not turn the way that he wanted to. Very, very tight, and lucky that Van de Ven did not catch him there.
I think it's mainly because that rear wing is a rather jaunty angle that isn't susceptible to good racing at the moment. But yes, that's probably the source of all his woes at the moment. As you're having a look on the replay on stream at an overtake happening down there at the Goddard's hairpin. But Stefan Roskin has checked out of this race. He's 8.4 seconds ahead of Bill Lawrence in the 17 car at the moment. He's just about to finish lap 10. He's about to get to this halfway point of the race, so he may well decide to just dive in this time round and make it a race of 2 halves. But this battle for second place certainly heating up between Lawrence and Robertson as they come through the hairpin now and down towards the final corner. The question is, will any of these 3 come in this time round? Stefan Roskin has decided not. The German has staying out for one more lap. Lawrence and Robertson both staying out as well.
They both are your top 6 staying out, as well as Kenneth Baldwin is starting to close down the gap, the number 10 from the Plains in terms of clubs. So he'll be right there in the middle. He's trying to get himself past John Morgan, and he's done well over the last laps, a consistent 0.4 of a second a lap, as he did himself a 25 flat in practice, his quickest, but a 24.8, a 24.9 his last 2 laps, compared to the 25.2 and the 25.3 of John Morgan. He's just been slowly whittling that gap away, and Morgan is happy to sit behind John Unsby. He knows that he's a rival as Unsby runs wide through McLean's. Opportunity knocks, and down the inside when they get to Coppice Corner, John Unsby, there was where Captain Morgan was waiting for the opportunities there, Neil. He sat, he waited for the mistake came, and off you go, Bob's your uncle, and you're straight through up into now what is 4th position.
Yes, just waiting for that opportunity. That's sometimes what racing is. Sometimes it's just trying to subtly force your opponent into a mistake, and that's exactly what John Morgan did to John Unsby. Unsby goes for the dive bomb, but that's not working this time round. It's currently Morgan holding on to that place. Coming into the final corner now, will either of these two come in? Well, one person has come in. Bill Lawrence and Mark Robertson, 2nd and 3rd, both come in. Stefan Roskins continued, but 4th, 5th and 6th stay out.
They do, so Lawrence and also Robertson on the lane, looking to see who is the best on strategy. It's a slow pit road, and it's a very slow, long wait onto the box for Robertson, and that's going to give the gap to Bill Lawrence, because he was so lethargic, waiting, where's my box, and you can see how that has already extended a gap over a second at this stage, even more potentially for Robertson. He's got to bring that gap up all over again. Disaster for what he was looking to do there, Neil.
Yes, disaster, but he's now got the number 6 car, a lapped car between the two of them now, that being of Bob Kern, but Kern lets Robertson by. But yes, just slightly slow coming into the pit stall there. It's a 10.3 second stop, which is what we've seen so far during the pit stop phase, but just slightly slow coming in, and he's lost about half a second or so due to that. Stefan Roskin coming around the final corner, not coming in again, so he's going to do at least 13 laps on this first stint.
Yeah, and we also noted that off wide went Robertson, and that cost him probably about a second coming out to the old hairpin. Now, this battle going on, a lot of different lines being taken to say, okay, can we come in? Morgan stays out, so does Unsby, but undercut strategy time for Kenneth Baldwin. He's going to try and get some clean laps and get back out and going again. They've got to be careful about Andrew Fiddler. They've got to be careful about Jos van der Ven, and Van der Ven has made his way past Andrew Fiddler and then some so far in this one, because Fiddler has made mistakes over the last couple of laps or so and has dropped a country mile back in comparison to Jos van der Ven. Crucially enough, though, Robertson with a big advantage over Van der Ven. Baldwin coming out of pit road now, and crucially with Robertson just ahead. So through all of that and the long pit stops, maybe we're going to be seeing the likes of Unsby and Morgan challenging for 2nd position now, Neil.
Yeah, he's got that lapped car of Bob Kern in between himself and Robertson, though. That's the main problem at the moment as he comes through the old hairpin now incredibly fast. And of course, the thing about Donington Park here is that there's grass right there on the edge of the circuit constantly, so if you make a mistake, you're going to say hello to Mr. Tyre Barrier within a few seconds if you're not careful. But yes, coming across the top of the through Coppice now, I believe Kern will probably ease off the throttle on the straight to allow Baldwin to pass him. But yes, he has closed up just a little bit there. The question is, will Morgan and Unsby come in this time round? The question is no for both of them, and neither has Roskin.
Well, that's going to be telling, as now onto lane comes a certain Joel Martin from 5th position at the time. So he will look to try and make that stop. No surprises then for anybody in that situation, but for the moment at least, it's about trying to find a little bit of a gap here and there. So For the moment at least, it's starting to calm as Martin now makes his way out of pit road, looking for where he's going to come out. And the answer is behind Jos van der Ven. So van der Ven moves past Joel Martin. Not only that, PJ Sally as well is just going to stay behind. So Joel Martin, nice bit of clean air there, but Jos van der Ven proving that he knows how to race and how to race a lot quicker, as well as Roosjen is expected on the lane.
Yes, Van der Ven, I made that plus 13 for him now. A fantastic job there today by Van der Ven. But coming out of the final corner, Roosjen does come in, even though there's a very slow car. I think expecting Roosjen to continue and lap him. So he lost a little bit of time there. But with a 16-second lead at the moment, losing a couple of thirds doesn't really matter for Mr. Roosjen at the moment. John Morgan continues, but Unsby comes in. So Morgan will take over the lead of the race for now, presuming that Roosjen doesn't get out before him, and it looks like that is the case as the 73 is coming through pit road at the moment. But yes, Stefan Roosjen comes back out, but the question is, where is he in comparison to everyone else? He's come out behind De Pasqua, and between De Pasqua and Cullum, which is currently the battle for 4th place.
Ahead. That's all that needs to matter at the moment. Ahead of Bill Lawrence as John Unsby comes out with Baldwin down the inside and taking the position away. Unsby now needs to go instantly onto the attack. It's demoralising when you see a championship rival leave your box just as you enter yours. And for the moment, Unsby knows he's got to try and get aggressive here and hope for a big mistake from Stefan Roosjen. It's not forthcoming just yet, though. And Roosjen, who is clear, by the way, by a hefty margin, it's going to be good enough for him for the championship if things stay like this. Unsby has Baldwin in front, but crucially enough, John Morgan, who has been saving his fuel, is going to be due onto the lane this time by. Rounds himself through Goddard's, the final corner, out on track, and will look to angle down onto the lane very early with that lane marker as well, making sure that he's not speeding here, Neil, as he searches for his box.
Yes, you cannot afford a speeding penalty, especially in such a short race like this. But having a look, Kenneth Baldwin did indeed of John Unsby, and that might hold the both of them up, which allows Morgan to get ahead of the both of them. A 10.1 second stop there, John Morgan, as Unsby and Baldwin come out of Goddard's. Baldwin very, very squiggly there coming out of the final corner, but look at that, look at the lead that Morgan had. Cars behind, the orange and the red car you could just see in the back of shot there are the two battling cars.
They are, and look at where John Morgan actually has come out, and that's right behind Mark Robertson, this one for 3rd position now. So a disaster in terms of the outlap times from Mark Robertson. He had a poor pit stop and some poor outlaps to boot with that as well, and John Morgan has patiently paced himself, and he's got himself right onto the rear of a podium position through great strategy work with 4 laps to go the next time they cross the line in the opening race at Donington Park. But for now, at least, it seems that all is going to be calm. We've got Remigo de Pasqua and Joel Martin together on track. This one also a battle for position. De Pasqua has just been silently gaining those positions, silently just moving up through the field. It's been nothing dramatic. It's just been consistency. Same as Joel Martin, but Martin knows that he's got to be very, very careful when the defending time starts.
Yes, a very, very anonymous race so far for De Pasqua, but up into 9th place after starting in 12th, so +3 for him. But yes, having a look at Joel Martin to see when he can make that move. After the pit stop cycle has finished, Stefan Roosjen's lead over Bill Lawrence is 9.8 seconds. He could just cruise home from here and win the title, but no doubt he's going to be looking for that fastest lap as well to get the grand, at least in race 1. But having a look at Mark Robertson at the moment, coming through the old hairpin, he's got about a 2 second gap. Seconds to Bill Lawrence at the moment. The question is, can he catch him down in 4 laps? It's going to be very, very difficult for him.
Oh, it's not even 4 laps anymore, it's 3.5, and that makes his life just a little bit more difficult. And Also, you look at John Unsby, he's managed to get back past Kenneth Baldwin, and that was on that last lap. So crucially enough, Unsby is quicker than Kenneth Baldwin and is running away from him, but he's running out of time if he wants to stop Stefan Rosgen and get as many points as possible. I'm not sure he'll be able to do anything in this race to make it happen, but in that second race, he's got to be able to step up and win that one if something happens, and we hope it doesn't, for a certain Rosgen in the final couple of laps. We got also Richard Coulomb, Gianni Raspaldo and Gerard Florison, the battle 12th, 13th and 14th on the road at the moment here, Neil. And well, Raspaldo, the man under pressure right now. Richard Coulomb trying to get in on the action as they head to the Fogarty S's. They're already 50 seconds off of your race leader, but it's a little bit tentative there from Gianni Raspaldo. And here's a chance for Coulomb if he wants to look to the inside. He gets in the mirrors and he breaks incredibly late in comparison, but has to really scrub off the speed there because Raspaldo was a lot more consistent with that break.
Yes, Coulomb there, just trying to scare Raspaldo into a little mistake there by the looks of it right at the end of the braking zone. But not working that time around as they come onto the start finish straight to begin what will be their lap 18 and 3 laps to go for this 3-car battle pack. But it appears at the moment that Emerson has got ahead of Raspaldo and Coulomb. The gap as they came across the line pretty much a second as they come down the Craner curves now.
And down the Craner curves, you can see how there's just that faintest bit of help to Raspaldo thanks to Gerard Florison. And Florison doing a good job of things, all three of them very, very equal as they head through the old hairpin under Starkey's Bridge and looking now towards McLean's corner, up the hill, right-hander, always very difficult, and you're looking to try and put that power down as early as possible to get yourself to Coppice. Another corner of trying to put the power down, but sometimes it just doesn't work out. But for your leaders now, there's popsicle sticks in the air here, Neil. It's 2 laps to go at Donington.
2 to go for the leaders now. Stefan Rosgen with now an gap over Bill Lawrence, who in turn only got about 1.3 seconds over Mark Robertson for that second place position. And Robertson has tried to hold off John Morgan for that final podium, but Morgan seems to have fallen off a little bit over these last couple. So Robertson is about halfway between Lawrence and Morgan at the moment, at least, as he comes towards Coppice. This very, very difficult corner and onto the back straight for the second last time this race, and obviously too far back to make a move onto Lawrence into the Fogarty S's. I'd be very, very impressed if he managed it from this distance.
Well, he knows that he's just got to try and make a move, and he's not close enough, not at all, as he is over a second and a half behind Robertson, and he's looking for something that just isn't there at the moment. We still got Joel Martin versus Remigio de Pasqua out on track as we head towards the final lap of the opening race here at Donington Park in the 60 Plus Racing Adventures, as we now have Florison under pressure from Gianni Raspaldo. Raspaldo can't do anything and he's slow as around the outside goes Richard Coulomb, stealing a position there with a few joules of energy to boot on the exit. So Coulomb doing a fantastic job to make that move, but for the time being at least, it's been all about Stefan Rosgen. Here is a driver who has pulled away at almost a second a lap every single lap. It has come down thanks to the pit stop. His lead has been diminished, but he's been building that up again and again. The only man in this event to have broken the 124 barrier as he holds the fastest lap in this race. He got pole position with a time of a 124.034, stealing it away from Bill Lawrence, but it has been plain sailing for all but 2 corners left in this championship for him. Yes, there is another race to come. Yes, there's another opportunity to get points, but John Unsby in 5th cannot do anything more now, because rounding the final corner is Stefan Rosgen, and he will be the 60 Plus Racing Adventures champion with a victory in race number 1. And what a way to win a title with perfect precision driving and a fastest lap to boot on the final lap as well. Champion once for Stefan Rosgen.
Yes, an absolutely commanding win here in race 1. absolutely nothing anyone could do, and it seems that he's won the race by almost 14 seconds. Around a 20-lap race here at Donington Park. Absolutely extraordinary drive from him today. It appears that John Unsby just held off Kenneth Baldwin for that 5th place by about 4/10 of a second. So yes, that is Roskin, the champion. As you're having a look at the battle for 12th still between Florison and Coulomb, and it looks like that it was Rispaldo trying to put them through Goddard's. No room there though, and you can see moving left and right Coulomb there, but it looks like there's no room at the end, and Florison will get that 12th place.
He will. Fantastic drive then from Gerard Florison to hold that off, but official results, let's get them up on your screen. The race is over and everything is how it should. So it's pretty simple in the end. To win a championship, you have to win the most amounts of races 9 times out of 10, and Stefan Roosgen has just done that. A victory in 28 minutes and 46 seconds by over 14 seconds nearly to Bill Lawrence. Mark Robertson comes home in 3rd place. John Morgan comes home with a spirited drive to 4th, with John Unsby, the main championship contender. Knew it was an uphill struggle all season long, but it will be 5th in the end. Kenneth Baldwin comes home 6th, with 7th going to Jos van der Ven. John Martin finishes in 8th, with Remigio de Pasqua 9th, and Frans Brink rounding out the top 10. Andrew Fiddler ran into issues with damage. He drops back to 11th, with Gerard Florison in 12th and Richard Coulomb in 13th. Gianni Rispaldo finishes in 14th place, with Richard Valley. David Riley there in 15th, and 16th position goes to Stephen Karkner. Then you got drivers 1 lap down, like Mark Lazon, William Stark, Bob Kern, PJ Sally, Ralph Kemmerer and Wally Molesby. The one driver who was many laps down was Larry Thomas, and he did not have a drive befitting of what he is capable of. But for the time being, at least, we are going to step aside very briefly. We're going to come back with the fallout from race number 1 as we start thinking about gearing up to race number 2 here this evening on the 60 Plus Racing Adventures on iRacing Live and RaceSpotTV. Don't go away. Championships aren't easy things to win. Such has been the glory of racing. To be called the fastest is always a difficult challenge because you have to be pushing harder than anybody else, braking later than anybody else, getting luckier than others, and also finding yourself in a great position. And talking about drivers who put themselves in great positions, Stefan Rosgen, race victor here on race number 1, and now series champion to boot as well. Stefan, welcome. And first question goes to you, being, it was pretty easy racing as you won by 14 seconds.
It looked a little bit easy, but I was a lucky guy today. That Bill was very fast, he was very close, and unfortunately he went off in second lap. After that it went easy, that's right.
Well, let's talk about the championship as well. There's 10 raced rounds when it comes to the road courses, and then 2 to the ovals. And by my understanding, you've sort of staved away from the ovals a little bit. You've had 2 rounds that have been missed, but you've been picking up victories left and right, and it seems that you don't really want to be sharing too much.
I don't go to the ovals because I don't have triple screens, and then it's too much stress.
It's completely understandable. Everybody has their own reasons for attending or not attending certain rounds of the championship. But in terms of the championship, it was almost a formality. You needed to score 4 points today to pretty much wrap up the season. And you managed to get that with a win, a fastest lap as well, pole position, a perfect race, a perfect end to your championship. What's it like being champion?
Yeah, I'm a happy man.
Well, a man of few words, he needs to be only that. Stefan, before we let you go, any shout-outs or sponsors?
Yes, thanks to RaceSpotTV, you make a great show, and thanks to all the guys who make it possible here.
No worries at all. Stefan Rosgen then picking up the victory and the title then to go to boot as well. Neil, you are standing by with the man who finished in second position, and that is Bill Lawrence.
Indeed, Bill, you did second place. You just missed out on pole by a matter of hundredths of a second, and unfortunately you did have that little off on the second lap or so, but after that it looked like you had a fantastic battle with Mark Robertson. Tell us about your race.
Yeah, I was hoping to stay close to Stefan. He's tough to stay close to, but I thought if I could keep on his wing I'd be okay, but I pushed it a little hard through that corner and went wide, and then Mark got around me and I had to dive inside to get it back on him. We're teammates, so I just wanted to run safe after that, so just trying to keep a good pace.
So you haven't done all the races this season. Of course, you were last season's champion, but not obviously now not retaining that crown. But how for the races that you have done this season, how have they gone for you?
Yeah, I've had a great season when I've raced. I unfortunately in Canada here, this is our holiday season, so I was gone for a big vacation with my family, and I missed a lot of races. I was able to make this final, so glad to be back. It's been a good season overall for me. Thanks.
So just before you go, are there any people that you want to give a shout out on the stream to?
Yeah, just final race of the season. Shout out to everyone on 60 Plus. Great group of guys there, and for the organizers, Joel and Mark Leeson. Thank you for your work, and for you guys for broadcasting and giving us great coverage. We appreciate it all.
And I believe now, Jake, that you will be with the person that did eventually finish in third.
I do. I have Mark Robertson here. Firstly, is it Robertson or Robertson? I need to ask.
Robertson.
It is Robertson. Okay. Thank you very much. So, Mr. Robertson, Mark, third place, had an opportunity to get to second in the long and short of things, but found yourself in a good scrap with teammate Bill and ultimately came out second best, especially when it came to the pit stop.
Yeah, I was doing all I could to keep up with Bill, stay in his draft, and fortunately for me, he had a little off-track excursion into the grass there that allowed me to get around him. But wasn't but a couple laps later that he was able to get back around me, and I just was kind of hanging on to his tail.
And in the closing stages, you saw come out of pit road John Morgan behind you, and he slowly faded away. Was that maybe a little bit surprising to see John go that far in terms of his fuel numbers?
Yeah, it was really. John's usually a pretty stiff competition. I expected him to be pressing me for the finish, but you know, I kind of surprised myself today. I really didn't expect to qualify as well as I did. My main goal was to keep it on the track, and for the most part managed to do that. And I figured if I could, that would put me in a top 5 anyway.
Well, on the asphalt, you certainly stayed. Another chance to score points better than third then in race number 2, which will be happening in about 10 minutes' time in terms of warm-up. The race happening, of course, at the top of the hour. Do you feel that for this second race, you've had a chance to suss out some of the competition? And are you in a position where you feel like third place, or even better, second or first, is an achievable goal for you?
Well, I'm certainly going to try. If Stefan keeps up with his past history, he'll probably start from the rear. So, but it only takes him 3 or 4 laps to be right up there and running on your back door and trying to pass you. So I'm going to do my best and hopefully have a little better result, or at least as good.
Well, we'll hope to see that from you. Mark Robertson coming home in third position there, but stay with us here on RaceSpotTV, ladies and gentlemen, because we'll be coming back with race 2 of the evening in just a few moments' time. You're watching the 60 Plus Racing Adventures League here on iRacing Live, brought to you by RaceSpotTV.
I'm Dave Kemmer. I'm the CEO and CTO at iRacing. We started this back in 2004, so we're actually older than 10 years old, but we first opened up the site to the public in 2008. It actually got started about 30 years ago when we did our first game at Papyrus, which was Indy 500. And that actually was just about 30 years ago, a little less. I was working on it 30 years ago. And that just, led to IndyCar racing, NASCAR racing. We eventually did Grand Prix Legends, and then we took that Grand Prix Legends engine and put it on NASCAR 4, NASCAR 2002, 2003. And at that point, EA got an exclusive license with NASCAR, and the company that owned us at that point, which was Vivendi Universal, decided to shut the studio down because they couldn't figure out another way to make money with the tech that we had. It was just about that time that I got connected with John Henry, because he had just bought the Red Sox and come to town, and it turns out that he was a big fan of the NASCAR 2003 season. And so he came to the office just to visit one day, and we got connected. And we were talking about the fact that this was going to be shut down and what could we do with it. Certainly it didn't seem like Vivendi had an interest in using the code base, so he kind of helped us buy that code base back from them and set up iRacing, which we did in 2004. He got involved because he thought that the simulator was very cool. He just had a great time with it. In fact, he built up a league of his friends at home that, and they apparently raced so much that several of them started to suffer burnout. But no, he definitely is a dedicated sim racer.
He's typing! He's typing! He's got it! He's got it! It's a new line of code! I'll get my code.
There were a few things that we wanted to try to do when we were starting up iRacing that would be different than what we had done before. One was to make a web-based service for multiplayer. It just seemed like a natural way to be able to market and reach people directly rather than through a store or selling a box. John was very interested in building a sport, you know, something that actually where there were rules and you know, a sanctioning organization, where it would really feel like what you're doing in the sim was meaningful. You know, we kind of wanted to start from scratch. I mean, using the technology that we had from Grand Prix Legends, but we started just pulling pieces of that and we built the code base up essentially from the ground up. I think John put it as it's sort of like in the old days of Papyrus, we were selling bats and balls and gloves, and you know, he said, hey, let's create the playground and the ball field and, you know, make the umps and turn this into something. And, you know, it's interesting because, you know, really when we started in 2008, we didn't have very much content, but it was exciting right off the bat for that very reason, that we had these rules. People could understand, hey, this is what's at stake. And at this point, 10 years in, I feel like we've really succeeded on that front. I think we've executed on that vision just as well as I could have possibly hoped we would. I've been surprised by how much progress we've made with the simulation. It blows me away when I see it. It's just like, wow, this looks really good. There's so many pieces in there and they all work. It's just really awesome. It's way beyond what we had 10 years ago. Of course, we have a lot of stuff that's in development, big things. You know, we've talked about the day-night transitions, the new damage model, better sound engine. There's just a lot going on and these are bigger projects which take a while to do, but when people see them and see the results, I think they'll really be pleased with it.
We're back here at Autosports International 2017. From Vegas to Birmingham, we're now joined by driver for Apex Racing UK, who states has 156 road wins and 11 oval wins. Graham Carroll, good afternoon.
Yeah, hi Will, thanks for having me on.
So I heard first of all you're a little bit poorly.
Out in Vegas the second day I was there, I sort of came down with a sort of cough, sort of flu sort of thing, but we'll get over it,
Talk about Vegas itself. I mean, for me the one thing that stood out is how you as sim racers were really kind of treated like racers and given that kind of celebrity status quite a bit.
like the suits we got given and everything, you know, it was just absolutely amazing. Then to get a teammate like Jose Maria and Sam Bird, and obviously everyone got their teammates as well. And like you say, we were treated really, really well, and it's not like we sort of turned up as gamers. All the pro guys really sort of looked at us as competition and not just sort of gamers. So it was good in that perspective, and how they sort of organised the event and with the sort of visa and how Formula E sort of worked it out. It was really good, and it was for the minute sort of me and Alex arrived on the Wednesday, I don't think we had sort of 10-15 minutes to sit down. You know, the schedule was absolutely flat out, but loved every minute of it, apart from the race obviously. But it was awesome, and hopefully it can sort of make sort of other competitions come out of it. You know, that's the big thing.
Yeah, and I think one of the interesting things is going to be future of sim racing. That was really the first time that we saw I'm going to call it the LAN way of doing it, compared to what traditionally we have in iRacing with everyone racing online. Do you think it's different? What did you enjoy running in that kind of LAN setting more to iRacing? What's the pros and cons from your perspective?
Look, I've always said that iRacing is the best of the best. The only thing that drew me towards it was the money, you know, that's the only thing. But there was, like, I was speaking to Gregor when we were out there as well, and he was one of the people that really hated like the input lag. It was one of the big things for everyone, and he really struggled with that. But it was good again to see all these really, really quick guys be on exactly the same machinery as everyone else and see who's who and who can adapt to it the quickest. And I've got to take my hat off to Bono. I've said that numerous times. He drove absolutely outstanding, you know. It was there was some really, really good points, but there were some not so great points as well. But for sim racing as a whole, I think we need to stop talking about the bad points about it and just talk about the positives, because we're all trying to make this sim grow, make sort of sim racing grow, and that's what we're all trying to do together, you know. So that's the big picture here.
Well, let's move on and talk a little bit about your iRacing career. And of course, the key thing that we're going to start talking about is you participating again in the 2017 iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series. So for yourself, I mean, talking to Alex Simpson earlier on, and you are going to probably have the biggest team on the grid in 2017.
We've definitely got a few quick guys coming up through the Pro Series. They're doing really, really well. We've definitely got a strong team behind us. Again, myself, Alex, and Anton and Pete, and so many to name, to be fair. But it's going to be a good year, and I'm looking forward to getting stuck back in about it. And I think now that we've sort of met all these guys in Vegas and seen what they're all about, you know, it's time that Apex won a race and got a pole and all this kind of stuff. And I know I said it going into last year's one. I knew it was my first WCS, but we're not here to finish second, you know. We're here to win them. We want to be finishing right up the top this series, and I'll do the first few rounds, and if it's the Gregor and Martin show again, I think I'll be packing it in quickly.
Well, we're down to 12 rounds this season, so compared to the 16 that we usually use in the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series. And I've just been given a promo by Motorsport Auctions, a global selling platform. Yeah, moving on. So 12 rounds. So the sense of urgency is a lot higher compared to previously, because it means that all of a sudden you can't mess up.
That's it, you know. I went into it as well. First round last year, I can't even remember, one of the Iberica guys just completely wiped me out first round. Excuse me. Second round, Phillip Island, I put my hand up, I had half a lap short of fuel, and then Sebring, one of the Radicals guys, wiped me out. So, and then I went on a sort of bouncy numerous top 10 results that you took the first 3 rounds out of the equation and just gave me an average top 10, I would have been ahead of Picala at one point, you know. So it's all ifs and buts, but when you look at it like that, that's what I want to make sure. I've had my bad year to start with, and now I need to know finishing, and just points are the main thing, you know. You've got to learn off these guys that have done it for 5 years straight, and it's time to do well, you know.
You talk about pole positions, of course. Radicals got themselves their first pole position last year in the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series. NX Racing scored themselves their first win with Yoni Tamala in the World Championship Series. And one of the things that we saw with the McLaren is that in many ways it proved to be a leveler. So we heard all the stories with the Williams, the established teams have the advantage because they've been doing it for so long. The McLaren kind of wiped some of that out a little bit. So do you think that you can get a pole position at the very least this season?
Yep, I do believe it now. It's time. Got some new equipment, hopefully that'll help, and no, it's just the time, we're not here to, like I say, I'm going to do the first the first 3 or 4 rounds and see how we get on, but I'm not here to be going about in 10th place or even 3rd or 4th place, but 40 seconds off the lead. That's just wasted time kind of thing. So we're here to win and do well, and I think we've got the resources and the team this year to really do it.
That is a bold mission statement. Now we're going to hold you to that. Race victories, pole positions at the very minimum then for Apex and for Graham Carroll. You talk about your setup actually. Talk us through the setup that you use for iRacing.
That I use at home?
Yeah.
Well, I sort of got a little sponsorship for the HE pedals for going out to Vegas, so I've got myself a set of them coming shortly, and I recently just bought a Leo Bodner steering system. So I'd like to think, the steering wheel and the pedals is probably the best you're going to get at the minute, and there's nothing else apart from the loose nut behind the wheel that's going to make it go quicker, So that's, I'm not that I've blamed any equipment in the past, but just this is the year that we need to do well, and if there's a peak in my sim racing career where I've been doing well, I think sort of this Vegas thing has really given me confidence and really pushing me forward to do well,
Well, let's talk a little bit more away from the World Championship Series. First of all, what else are you going to be doing on iRacing in 2017?
There's a chance I maybe do Blancpain. A team of guys that are in there at the minute that I've spoke to Alex about maybe jumping in, but we'll see, because I would never like to upset a team that's working well and going to qualify. But we'll take it as it comes. Not a big deal if we don't. Again, to be fair, it's just helping out Alex with stuff in the academy. I quite enjoy seeing drivers come through that and picking up speed and getting better and better. To be fair, any other competition that comes out there with cash, it's time to just attack it and treat it like Vegas. That was one of the things with Vegas. I treated it like a job. I was on it 6 hours a day, and that's why I won the first round. I was ready to go, and it really paid off. I know I never done well in the race, but I still walked away with $20,000. So any competition that there is this year with cash prizes and a decent cash prize, I'll be all over it.
All in for the money. Real racing as well, very quickly.
I will see. I developed a new Formula Ford car last year.
Yep.
I'm not too sure if we're going to do it again, possibly, but probably just the odd selected Formula Ford events, the big races here and there. And again, I'm making more money at sim racing than I am in real racing, so it's hard to go real racing at the minute.
And well, that's one of the things really. I want to, before we finish up, talk about what you learn on iRacing to take into the real racetrack, but also what you learn on the racetrack that you can bring back to iRacing. I mean, how much of a link is there?
Excuse me. Put it this way, I stopped real racing in 2008 when I ran out of money. I won the British Championship, and I went away from it for quite a while. And I went back 2 years ago, 2015. I won one of the biggest Formula Ford races into history. 150 entries, some of the best drivers in the world on Formula Ford, and I'd never have won that Formula Ford race without iRacing. And when you're battling with people, when you take off at the start, or you're 1-to-1 and you're battling with guys, it is exactly the same parts of your brain you're using that you would do in real life, So it just keeps you ultra sharp. When you change the setup in the car, it's the feeling you're getting. It's exactly the same you're getting in real life, So it's so similar, It's don't get me wrong. There's slight things, tyre models and bits and bobs that you have to deal with, but the core of it is just exactly the same. And iRacing do such a good job to replicate it. It's just such a key tool to me, to be fair.
Well, what I've learned from this interview is pretty simple. If there's money involved, if there's competition involved, you will see Graham Carroll going up there for championships, for prizes. Before we let you go, Graham, we'll leave the floor to you. Anyone you want to give a shout out to?
Well, just thanks for iRacing to coming over. It's been good to see everyone. And again, Alex at Apex Racing, just again for probably would never have been to Vegas and all these things without Alex. So and all my family back home and the girlfriend and yourself, Will. Thank you very much.
Cheers, thank you very much, and thank you for stopping by here on iRacing Radio, powered by RaceSpot. You can come and see us at stand 6510 all weekend long. iRacing Radio, powered by RaceSpot. We'll be live from 9 a.m. till 6 p.m. on Saturday and Sunday. Tweet us, use the hashtag iRacing Radio. We'll be back with more a little bit later on.
Grand finale, the final race of the year, of the season at least, shall we say, because a championship has already been pretty much secured in one sense, but the team's championship, oh, that's a completely different matter, one which even I can't calculate, and as we all know, broadcasters are the worst mathematicians in the world. But a final race to get the season all completed at Donington Park here in Leicestershire, England. I, of course, am hashtag Do You Mind Jake Sperry, the observer of sim racing, joined with Neil Heatley here in the commentary booth. Qualifying is currently underway, 10 minutes, 2 laps, just like it was prior. But Neil, the championship's all wrapped up for Stefan Rosgen. The difference now is, how many points can you score for your team?
Yes, how many points can you score for your team? That is the main question here for race 2, and the way that it works here at the 60 Plus Racing Adventure Series is that out of the 4 people in each team, their best 8 results throughout put towards the points total. And coming in, I believe there's about 40 points separating the top 3 teams, and I have no idea what it is now, but no doubt it's still a very close battle.
Close. We know it's close, we just don't know who's going to get what. As the first times will look to come in, and on cue, Stefan Rosgen slacks in a 1:23.905. He is 0.8 of a second quicker than Jos van der Ven in second position, of course, who didn't qualify in the opening race of the evening, would rather bank his points for the second race of this evening's action, as the likes of Andrew Fiedler makes his way to the line and does himself a 1:25.2, which is only good enough for 6th position, but 0.8 of a second qualifying. You know a driver's quick when he puts not just a 10th like Martin Kroenke would do in the World Championships, Neil, but a legitimate light year between you and your opponents.
Yes, 0.8, and funnily enough, 0.8 was the gap in race 1 qualifying, but I should say the rest of because he had the long-time rival Bill Lawrence right there behind him, and Bill Lawrence has had a terrible first lap down there in 20th place at the moment with a 1:29.994, and it looks like he's in the pit lane, so it looks like he's not going to get another lap in. So Stefan Rosgen right up there at the moment, and that number 60 car, of course, will probably be racing the number 1 for season 8 of the 60 Plus series. Yes, 0.8 of a second ahead, 8.5 of a second ahead of Jos van der Ven. That's coming out of the final corner on his second lap. Will he be able to improve? The answer is no, but Stephen Karkner's gone place at 24.536.
Well, that's another 0.2 that's being locked off, so now down to 0.7 of a second, the gap in qualifying, but Stefan Rosgen on a 1:23.852 clearly heads and shoulders above the rest of the pack right now. Gianni Raspaldo making the charge to the line in the 48, currently in 15th position, and will slightly improve. We'll move up to 13th for the moment as Remigio de Pasqua makes his charge to the line, and he does a 1:25.296. He's only 0.003 behind John Unsby, who only qualifies so far in 8th position right now. Currently just one driver out on a flying lap at the moment. That's William Stark in the 19 machine, heading into The Fogarty S is such a tough corner in any vehicle that you drive. It's just one where you need to be absolutely pinpoint accurate at the moment. You're too slow, you're too fast, or anything like that, you run into troubles, especially when you've got that downhill braking zone that comes straight afterwards. And there for William Stark, getting caught out, missing his braking point by probably a good 20 meters there.
Yes, it's a very, very difficult corner track, and it isn't really that slow. It's still 130 kilometers an hour or so in the line, and I believe he may well have got one of those 1Xs that time round somewhere on the track, so that's no time for him. But that does now mean that Stephen Roskin is on pole for the final time this season. Stephen Kartner in second and running out the top three.
Well, that's how things stand, and currently nobody out there to argue the case. The only one who could will be Larry Thomas, but I believe that he will have to start this one down on pit road. So there's not much you can do if you're Larry Thomas. It's going to be a waiting game, but everyone pretty much then done on their qualifying laps. So we'll get the grid up then for you on screen. This is how the final grid of the season is going to step up. Sometimes it's just not fair, is it? Stefan Rosgen, 123.852, a good 7/10 of a second quicker than Stephen Karkner in second position, with Jos van der Ven trying to make something happen in third. Mark Robertson will start from fourth position, just edged out there in qualifying with Captain Morgan, John Morgan in fifth position. Kenneth Baldwin will start from sixth, with row four seeing Andrew Fiedler and John Unsby. Remigio de Pasqua starts from 9th, with Joel Martin rounding out the top 10. Richard Coulomb and Franz Brink are 11th and 12th, with Gianni Raspaldo in 13th, along with Bob Kern. Jared Florison will start 15th, with David Riley in 16th and Richard Valley in 17th position. PJ Sally starts 18th, with Ralph Kemmer in 19th and Mark Lisson rounding out the top 20. Wally Molesby starts from 21st, and Bill Lawrence could only get one lap in qualifying, and it was a slow lap as well, a 129.994. He will start from 22nd, but expect him to make his way through the field. William Stark and Larry Thomas will not set lap times then in this qualifying session, but very crucially, Neil, as we get ourselves over towards the final race of the season, you don't have any more opportunities here. You got to go for overtakes. You got to start thinking, okay, can I take my chances now because there isn't a later, or do I just play the patient game and try not to get into trouble?
I know, it's just getting this feeling that you get like in touring car races before the summer break or in the last race of the season. You're going to get a lot of interesting moves because there isn't necessarily that much left on the line now. So we're just going to see what happens down into Redgate in turn one. Of course, this rolling start helps break up the pack just a little bit. Stefan Roskin, of course, will be on the right hand side of the track coming into Redgate. But yes, how much carnage will we see this time around? We saw a little bit on the first lap of race one, just a couple of people losing the rear ends and other people having nowhere to go. But the question is, what's going to happen this time?
Well, the only way you can find out is if you watch the last 20 laps of the season, the last half an hour's worth of racing on the calendar to end the season out. A championship already decided for Stefan Rosgen, but one which he wants to take the final victory to just secure back-to-back, just casually, just to prove that he is the master at Donington Park Racing Circuit, especially the 4.02 kilometre Grand Prix layout, as we now take you over to the starting grid, where we've seen all the positions, but they're now going to start lining themselves up. They have a good minute to get themselves up, a good 2 minutes if they really want to push it, but one of these races behind the iRacing roof first safety car with the rolling starts as per usual, which is going to be about how you manage yourself throughout the field. And we saw how the pit stops made some pretty interesting changes. I think what's very, very telling is you can go 15 laps on a tank of fuel here, Neil.
can't go 15 laps in a tank of fuel. We saw John Morgan do that in race 1, but will they do the same in race 2? We saw leaders go beyond the halfway mark for that pit stop. Of course, you have a compulsory run here in these 20 laps, about 80 kilometers of fast-paced action this race. The first race was done in about 28.5 minutes or so. Will the second race be faster or slower? We just don't know. About Stefan Roskin and Stephen Karkner being your front wing, and Karkner did qualify 4th in race 1 and lost the rear end up at Coppice on the first lap, and that was his race essentially over. He'll be looking to capitalise from this position, surely.
Don't count out Jos van der Ven. He went from 22nd up to 7th position in the opening race. He starts this one from 3rd and will be looking to be aggressive in the early stages. Pace car now starts moving through the Fogarty S's and now down towards the hairpin here at this track. And well, for the moment at least, these 24, they understand what they need to do. Keep it clean. It's the last race of the season. It's the last chance to impress. The last chance to get yourself on camera before week 13 turns up and all the fun and games begin of a week 13 and a brand new meta inside of iRacing as the new build comes into full fruition. But for Stefan Rosgen, he's proved he's the master of this build. He's proved that he's the master of this Pro Mazda. And if anybody thinks that they can stand up to him, well, they may have a rude awakening in store. Heading through Goddard's then, for the final time before this race. Pace car dives down onto the lane. Green flag goes. And it's a long wait and underway we go, and a very, very aggressive start from 4th place, and that was Mark Robertson making the move 3 wide down in towards turn number 1, and Karkner does well. He holds on to it, but there may be questions about a jump in terms of overtaking before the start-finish line for Mark Robertson. He's got to be careful, and the stewards may have a look as we now head ourselves down the Craner curves for the first time. It seems for the moment everybody pretty much clean as they head to the old hairpin. We had issues last race, but we have one vehicle almost going off. That was Wally Mosby in the Monster Energy car, and they all hold themselves safe, at least for now.
All holding themselves safe for now. A far cleaner start than race 1. But yes, Stefan Roskin holding on to that pole position, trying to make it the double here. Stephen Karkner, a good job there, holding on the outside in 2nd. And then it's Mark Robertson, as you said, in 3rd. Then Jos van der Ven, the only change in the top 4 then as they come to the Fogarty S's and down towards Goddard's for the first time.
Here's Andrew Fiddler though in the 101, trying to get past the 4 of Kenneth Baldwin. On the brakes they go into the hairpin, and not able to get a good enough run there was Fiddler. Took the tight line but never had a nose down on the inside, so that will be 1 lap then. Score complete, and by no means has Stefan Rosgen pulled away to the same extent he did in the opening race. The gap after 1 lap, only 7/10 of a second, and I say only because he is having a pretty good run still, but that battle starts looking, got Unsby now on the rear of this Fiddler-Baldwin battle, as well as the Van der Ven Robertson-Karkner battle that is going on for 2nd position right now. Also got Jared Flores and Gianni Raspado here, this one for 12th position here, and you can see just how aggressive Florison is looking right now, but he's not close enough into the old hairpin, and in fact he misses the apex by a good double-decker bus. Oh, car off the front. Wow, that's Coulomb. Wow, okay, so Richard Coulomb ran wide at the old hairpin. He missed the apex, got out on the grass, and I believe he was trying to get back out onto circuit, and he was trying to avoid Franz Brink, and he's done the avoiding part of Franz Brink, but Neil, he just forgot to avoid the wall.
Yes, forgetting to avoid the wall. I find that quite often when I try racing on multiple tracks around the world. I often forget to avoid the walls. But yes, it just looked like the transition between the grass and the tarmac, perhaps putting a quick movement in towards the left so he didn't crash straight into the side of Franz Brink, just really unsettled the car and put him into the barriers on the left-hand side there. But having a look, Stefan Roskin now has a 1.5 second lead over Stephen Karkner.
We've lost Kenneth Baldwin, and that one also down at the old hairpin here on lap number 2. So the 4 machine out of the event. He was through the old hairpin. He started losing the rear, tried to correct it, but had 2 tyres on the grass and was embedded into the tyres on the inside. We completely missed that, seeing the incident that happened just in front of them. He was pretty much hidden in the tyres, and well, it's unfortunate, but that's pretty much going to signal the end of that one. But there is unlimited fast repair, so if he wanted to come back out, he could. But here's Jos van der Ven fighting for 3rd position against Mark Robertson, and just not opening up the door enough, and actually losing a lot of time there through Coppice corner there, Neil, because he was too busy trying to search for a way down the inside instead of taking the racing line and taking the corner at speed.
Yes, we've seen this a couple of times already. Trying to make a move could make you lose one. Luckily, no one was behind Jos van der Ven that time round. But yes, there's not a single flat piece of racetrack round this 4 kilometres, is it? It's completely, constantly undulating up or down. You can certainly see that at Coppice, where that apex is completely blind because it's just on the top of the crest of the hill. But Mark Robertson here, who was 3rd place in the first race, looking to improve that by at least 1 position so he can get a few more points. But he has got Stephen Karkner in the way as he comes through Redgate and down the Craner curves for the 4th time.
Yes, and he's doing well. Out to pit road comes Ralph Kemmerer and Mark Lazon. Both of them have been involved in incidents as Kenneth Baldwin tries to get out of pit road as well. But you are correct, still that battle for 2nd, 3rd and 4th going on, and Karkner now the man under pressure as Robertson turns from defense into offense as Van der Ven has dropped back, and wide goes Karkner coming out of that turn number 6 corner of McLean's, and through Coppice he's okay. Got away with one there. You can run a little bit wide coming off the exits, but of course no instant limit. Well, in fact, that's a lie. 17 in the incident limit here, so you can't afford to go off too much as he gets aggressive through the right-hander at the Fogarty S's. And at the chicane, this is going to cost him, because down to the inside goes a certain Mr. Robertson, and that is a certain 2nd position, pretty much wrapped up with a nice, neat little bow.
Yes, 2nd position. But no doubt Karkner is going to be raring to get that position back, and of course Van der Ven and John Morgan right there in the background as well, if these 3 should start backing.
It's Fiddler around, and that's at Goddard's the final corner, and he's going to have to hit the reverse button pretty much, because he has parked it right with the tyres, and I don't think he can find reverse, so I think he's waiting a pretty hefty amount of time before he gets himself going again. It was just a lazy loop. He was under no pressure at all from the vehicles behind, just started to turn the back loops around, was unable to save it, and then it's almost as if the car just decided to stall. He couldn't turn it around the way that he wanted to, and he is now out of the event, and I think with a few issues finding that reverse gear. So a shame for Andrew Fiddler, but it can happen just like that. You spin it around, you can't find reverse, the day's done.
Yes, it is so easy to do, especially on a corner such as that last hairpin, because it is downhill all the way through the corner, and it's actually fairly tight. Get the throttle on just a little bit too early. You do have that little loop as Jos van der Ven appears to have gone to Narnia there.
I don't know, I haven't found the Lion, the Witch or the Wardrobe down at that corner, but he certainly was searching for something, all right, as he missed every breaking point imaginable trying to find a way past Stephen Karkner. It's not cost him in the battle because they're still with Robertson, the pair of them, but my goodness me, if you want to drive like that, Mr. Van der Ven, you're going to have John Morgan on your rear in no time.
Yes, I know there are many different lines to that corner, but one where you brake with 30 metres to go is not one that I generally recognise as they come down the Craner curves. Mark Robertson still holding on to that 2nd place, but have a look at Jos. Just to gain some of that, well, most of that time back up actually since that slight outbreaking incident down at the hairpin as they come up towards the 2nd half of the lap. And there's been so much holding up of the 2 in front of them, of Robertson and Karkner, that now means Van der Ven is right on the rear wing of Karkner.
How close do you want to be, Van der Ven, to losing it? As also off goes Robertson, yeah, just on cue, making a mistake at Coppice corner, pushing a little bit too eager over the curb, ran himself wide, and ultimately has lost both positions in that one. He won't be caught by John Morgan, who had a slowdown penalty to serve at turn number 1, Redgate corner. So Robertson back into 4th place. So Van der Ven and Karkner making some good progress and doing exactly what is needed out of them. But for Van der Ven, back up into 3rd position. Also got this 3-car scrap going on, 6th, 7th and 8th. We've got John Lansby, Joel Martin and Franz Brink all together on the same bit of real estate. They want to get on working, but Karkner decides for the early stop here, and that may just force the hand of the likes of Robertson and also Van der Ven as well.
Yes, as you said before, you can do 15 laps on a tank, and that means Karkner's came in at the end of lap 6, which means he'll do 14 in the second stint. The question is that the correct strategy? We've got about 6-7 laps until we find out if he comes out ahead or behind of Van der Ven and Robertson, as we're having a look at this 3-car battle. It's a 12.4 second stop actually, so a very long stop, obviously to put in more fuel for Karkner there, as we're having a look at Unsby, Martin and Brink having this 3-car battle for what is now 5th place. Seems Karkner has come into the pits to come across the top of the course. 7th lap heading towards the Fogarty S, the back straight. Martin looking for a move on Unsby, but I don't think it's close enough, especially into such a zone which the chicane has.
Well, we know that much, so Joel Martin hoping to find that move, but at the moment certainly not in a position as he goes into that big hairpin, that double apex hairpin sometimes people can refer to it as. And there's 2 very nice lines you can take through there. You can go for the uber tight line, or you can do what some drivers like doing, and that's diamond off the corner as much as possible. 2 different philosophies and driving styles, but also 2 different ways to try and make the move, as Wally Molesby now and Marco Luzon are battling 1 lap down. This now for 20th position at this stage here, as Molesby's a little slow coming off of the exit, Neil.
Yes, just a little slow coming off, and you can see Lyson moving right to the right hand side of the track, trying to make a wider line through the hairpin as possible to get a run, but he's got very wiggly off the hairpin actually there, and lost all chance of a run and a move down into Redgate.
Well, he's lost the run, and that's going to be hurting him, but he'll have an opportunity to try and get that back. Bob Kern on the rear of Richard Valley, and Valley has moved from strength to strength here, up and down the undulating lands, but on cue, off wide goes Valley as he tries to regain it, and that gives Kern the initiative through Coppice to try and attack, maybe at the Fogarty S's, maybe at the hairpin. Valley has shown a weakness here, and Bob Kern will look to try and exploit that.
You can see that Kern looking, just going from side to side, seeing if there's any room, but there wasn't any, so Kern, that 6-car, stays behind for now in 11th position, coming down towards the first of the hairpins on the Grand Prix loop. Kern too far back to make a move, but I say that he's got quite a nice launch off of the corner there actually. He could have a look towards the inside on the final corner of the track, but nothing there, so we've got to see if he has an equally good launch coming down towards Redgate. But of course they've got to be careful. Finisher and last season's champion Bill Lawrence right there behind them.
And Bill Lawrence is up 10 positions as things stand, and he said just before starting this event, I'm not going to fight hard with drivers. I want to finish this race, and I don't want to get into a situation where I don't want to, as they head down the old hairpin, or head down to the old hairpin as they head through the Craner curves. Now through the old hairpin, this is where Billy Munger had that scary accident, which has rendered him without legs, shall we say, but for the moment at least, up into the McLean's corner, a little wide from Bob Kern, and here's the opportunity, looking down to the inside potentially then for Bill Lawrence, but I think he wants something concrete, shall we say, instead of just like a sludgy, unformed concrete, shall we say.
Yes, coming to, I've never heard a concrete reference in commentating before, but there we go, as we're coming through the Fogarty S's now and down towards the first of the hairpins. It's downhill all the way, which means your brakes really want to lock up as Lawrence goes towards the inside of Kern there, and a lovely launch off of the corner. That is that move done. Now it's the 69 car of Richard Valley ahead.
It is, and well, Richard Valley has shown a little bit of weakness from time to time, and I've just seen dropping down the order Joel Martin. So he's either had a mistake somewhere else on circuit, or he has come down in and made a stop. And the answer is no, because he's had a massive off actually at Redgate at the start of last lap. Joel Martin in the 27, he gets out on the grass at Redgate, careers down the hill, and is looking for where he is because he's a bit lost. He ends up going one way up the circuit, realizes, okay, I'm going the wrong way, has to turn back the other way to stop himself from getting disqualified and back going again. For Joel Martin, Google Maps may have been helpful.
Yeah, Google Maps may have been helpful. He was almost in a completely different postcode at that point. But a nice job to make it back to the track. But that battle before between Valley and Lawrence appears to have, well, I think actually Valley's had an off because he's actually fallen behind Bob Kern now.
Oh, so already Richard Valley struggling. That was out to turn number 1. Not necessarily an off. He just ran wide, decided, you know what, I'm off. Just get it back on track as quickly as I can, and by the time he got it on track, he'd lost both positions down the Craner curves. So for Richard Valley, there's the weakness, just running wide a little bit and starting to occur more and more instant points, which will be hurting him the longer this race goes on. But Stefan Roosjen in this situation is absolutely flying once more here, Neil. 9.4 seconds lead over Jos van der Ven. This is starting to look like victory 2 of 2 for the evening.
The 9.4 after 10 laps, you know, it's not that much really if you think about it, but yes, it's been an absolutely dominating performance. Van Roosjen obviously regaining that crown here in the 60 Plus Racing Adventure Series as the number 7 car comes back out of the pits. That's Gerard Florenson, and he's came out right ahead of Wally Malsby. So it looks like that. He's actually a lap down. So he's actually came out behind William Stark by the looks of it. So he's came back out in 14th place.
We've also seen John Martin come down onto the lane and back out again, and behind David Riley, who he was just behind, trying to get onto pit road. So he has lost time, he has lost positions, and that won't be useful for him in the long run. Let's get a time comparison though between Jos van der Ven. Actually, let's get the map up on screen between Van der Ven's 167 and Karkner's 75, because this is an important battle. It was a 1:24.9 last time by from Jos van der Ven. If you consider last lap from Karkner, and he's due to set another lap, it was a 24.9 of his own over the last 3 laps. Actually, he's done 24.9. His vehicle off though on the exit, gets away with it. That's Richard Valley right on cue in the middle of the final corner. Doesn't change too much, but Karkner 25.7 had to get past the lap down Kenneth Baldwin as well. Karkner is falling backwards, and Van der Ven right now is poised here, Neil, to be up in second position after the pit stop.
Yes, Valley had something very similar as to what we saw earlier with the Canadian driver of Kenneth Baldwin, I should say, rather. Just got on the throttle a little bit too early around the final corner, and the rear end stepped out. But yes, this is a very, very important battle between Van der Ven and Karkner. As Karkner goes very wide and into the kitty litter off of up at McLean's actually. So a mistake there from Karkner. Certainly it's not going to help his hopes of getting back out ahead of Jos van der Ven, who is actually staying out again as he begins his 13th lap this time round.
Again, there's not much longer you can go on those fuel tanks, so he will be due in for a stop as Mark Robertson comes down onto the lane. Now, this is going to be a telling marker with Stephen Karkner. Karkner, who has been making mistakes, and Robertson pretty good then when it came to the stop, as he will look to try and get himself out and away very, very shortly as Karkner makes his way to the final corner. But off of the jacks goes Mark Robertson, looking to find himself with the green cones and back up to speed. And where in comparison is he? And the answer is ahead. So Karkner probably down in 4th position, maybe even 5th if he's not careful, because John Morgan's had a quiet race and he could pick up the scraps here.
Yes, Karkner lost the vast majority of that time, and that mistake previous lap, exiting McLean's, getting in the gravel. And that's really, really hurt him, and means that he hasn't managed to get out ahead of Robertson during his pit stop. But yes, coming up towards McLean's now, where the mistake last lap does not repeat it this time round. A nice job as he comes up towards Coppice. But yes, the next main couple of fighters that will need to come in terms of this battle are Van de Ven and Morgan. Van de Ven comes off of the final corner and decides not to come in this time round. John Morgan coming off of the final corner now and also decides to not come in. So at least one more lap for these two, and really at this point we're really getting towards the end of the fuel tanks.
We certainly are, and very close to the end of the race as well. Gianni Raspaldo, though, in the 48 under pressure from the charging Bill Lawrence, and both of them are going to dive down onto the lane. Damage for Bill Lawrence on the front nose, so that's probably going to take a little bit of time to get repaired, especially on that front right, where it's certainly different compared to Raspaldo. Had to double take actually onto the lane, had to move ever so slightly forward, which was never going to be ideal. Lawrence maybe a little bit slower coming down onto the lane. Of course, the fast repair in full effect, effectively a T-car. Out comes Raspaldo then, looking to get the jump, and oh, it was close, but out and away Bill Lawrence goes, and they are going to be behind Gerard Florison, and I think ahead of the Kemmerer Molesby train of lap down vehicles. So a little battle of their own world. I think Bill Lawrence will want to try and get to Florison by the end of this race. He certainly has the pace to do so.
Yes, certainly has the pace to do so. The question is, once he gets there, does he actually have enough time to make that pass? Of course, there's just a few laps to go once Stefan Roskin crosses the line, and I say that he's actually came into the pits now. So leader comes in for his stop, Van de Ven comes in for his stop as well, Morgan comes in as well. So the top three coming in for their pit stops.
Well, that's going to be very,
very... does as well, so it's the top four.
Top four all in, and Rosgen already out and away and retains the race lead and shall lead every single lap of this event so far. And it's a long, long wait for Mark Robertson, who rounds himself through the final corner, looking to get himself going. Where's Jos van der Ven? The answer is out on track and away again. So where's John Morgan in all of this? He could suddenly find himself up on a podium. No, but he is behind Mark Robertson by not very much, and Karkner snuck through as well. But John Morgan's a lot closer to Karkner than Karkner maybe wants, but Karkner only has tunnel vision at this stage, and that is tunnel vision to get back to Mark Robertson.
Yes, tunnel vision needing to get back to Mark Robertson. The gap between the two of them as they cross the line last time round is 1.7 seconds. Of course, we do have that lap car of Kenneth Baldwin, that number 4 car in the way, but no doubt once Karkner gets close enough to Baldwin, he will pull over. But yes, coming across Coppice now, 5.5 laps to go for these two cars.
Yep, 5.5 laps indeed, and this gap in this race just keeps extending, and extending. Rosgen is rounding himself through the final corner. Van der Ven is just making himself to the penultimate corner, as Gianni Raspaldo actually has just gone around in the number 48. We've caught that one. That's coming out to the old hairpin, and it doesn't actually do too much wrong here, I feel, Neil. He misses the apex slightly, just catches 2 tyres on that grass, and it's so easy to go around from there. And of course, when the track surface starts wearing away more and more and more, and you get down to the dirt that you find here out on the grass, it just gets worse and worse. The exacerbated wear that you see, and spins become so much easier to happen.
Yeah, it's so easy to do it at the old hairpin. As you said, just getting 2 tyres on the outside of the corner. That is you likely having to spin towards the right hand side of the circuit. But I'm having a look at lead, the dirty gap Roskin now has over Van der Ven is 17.5 seconds.
It's light years now. That's all you have to say. It's the light years. 17.5 seconds advantage. Quite a few laps to go as well. You know, you can pretty much kick back, relax, probably have a coffee and a small bite to eat, shall we say, before Van der Ven get through the line. But keep an eye on Karkner, though. He's got that gap down for 3rd position, under a second. and Robertson is going to have to defend this one through the fog of TSs and on for the final 4 laps of this event, Neil, because it's not straightforward. He's got to just keep it on the island. He's done so all day long. It's been his goal. He wants to get finished higher than 3rd position. He's in 3rd right now. At the moment, he may not even get a podium if things stay like this.
On the island is far easier said than done, especially when you are in a heated battle like this one at the moment. Of course, Stephen Karkner right there behind, ruining those couple of mistakes on the sort of like transition periods between the pit stops, which means that he's currently behind Robertson as they come through Red Gate and dive down the hill, reaching speeds of about 220 kilometers an hour, so it's going to be more since it's in the slipstream. At the breaking point for the old hairpin, it was 2, 2, 1. Then the very, very fast right-handed sweeper, then back up the hill again. It really is like a mini roller coaster around Donington Park.
Yeah, spin for Mark Lizon, and that was at the final corner, so he was approaching on Bob Kern, who was a lap ahead of him, and he's just looped the car around, and he's held it and waited for everyone else to get going again before he gets out on track. So Lizon doing the right thing, just staying out of the way of the other drivers, but causing himself a little bit of a spin, which is not going to be helpful. But back to Stephen Karkner in the 75, desperately trying to find a magical move that isn't quite there. We've also got David Riley trying to chase down Richard Coulomb. That's a different battle, but for Karkner at the moment, he's there. He's now just got to find the moment to make the move, and he's almost made it there, and he's very, very close to the rear of Robertson.
Very, very close, as you said. Of course, that is one of the main overtaking spots here at Donington Park, because it is such a large braking zone. As they come up to Redgate, he's only got 3 laps now to make that move, but he is much closer this time round. As they crossed the line last time round, 3/10 of a second separated the two of them, diving down the hill to the left, and again 220 kilometers an hour, then braking, well, I would say hard, but it's not really. It's 175 at the apex of the old hairpin, so it's really just a little bit of a blip on the brakes. And coming back up the hill, and again, this section of the track you really can't overtake unless the driver in front of you makes a mistake. Mark Robertson went a little bit wide there through the plains.
Oh, and he's trying to push hard through Coppice as well, and he's done very, very well to extend that gap out again. So there was a half feign of a look from Stephen Karkner, who was closing corner on corner on corner, and now has to do all that work all over again with 2 and a little bit laps to go at Donington Park and the season as well for the 60 Plus Racing Adventures League. And well, through that penultimate corner, not quite close enough before they make their charge to Goddard's in the battles that are available right now. Bill Lawrence has comfortably made his way through Gerard Florison. I think there may have been a mistake, Neil, out on track, and oh, there was a massive mistake. That was coming out to the old hairpin. Again, tyres on the grass, managing to save it, and that vehicle snapped on him, and he's lucky he's not in tyres.
Yes, very, very lucky again. We've seen that far more often here in the second race. Just that off at the old hairpin. But yes, we've seen it so many times, and of course it is so easy to do. Because Karkner almost did the same thing coming through the old hairpin that time round, got 2 tyres on that dirt on the outside, but he's fallen back quite a bit now. He was 1.5 seconds behind at the start-finish line.
He certainly was, but there is a lap and 2 corners remaining in the season for Stefan Rosgen. The gap has stabilised at 17.5 seconds, but expect that to gain as there was a slowdown penalty for him on the last lap. Karkner, though, is falling dramatically back from Mark Robertson, and he may just be safe between now and the end of the race. We've got another mini little battle going out, but there is no difference in terms of laps between Baldwin and Unsby, as well as also Fiddler behind. All of them are on different laps, and in terms of David Riley's battle with Richard Coulomb, he has pulled away in the final stages. So it's pretty much a lap of honour at this stage, apart from Joel Martin versus PJ Sally. Sally's got to hold on to it, but just behind them is Stefan Rosgen. Stefan Rosgen who has been unstoppable in race number 1 and is proving again as he heads his way out of McLean's towards Coppice that he is unstoppable in the second race as well. Nicely over the curb on the outside then, as Larry Thomas should get out of the way of Rosgen, and does. He makes his way to the Fogarty S's. It is a championship. It's a championship in style, and when he had the style, he went out and he built an even bigger gap than he has done in the opening race. On the brakes from 203 kilometers an hour down to a paltry 67 before getting the power back on again. And it seems for all the world that the rest of the field need to find an extra level, because Stefan Rosgen rounds the final corner and says in 60 plus, I'm on a different level to everybody else. Stefan Rosgen takes a back-to-back. He gets the double at corner number 2. Battle for third, though, hot, because Karkner dived for the inside at the penultimate corner. Where did he come from? To have a look, there was contact between the pair of them, and ultimately, Karkner loses out in the long run. A good effort, but Roberts holds on for in the second position. A very, very solid drive from the pair of them.
It's a very, very solid drive, and a great job there by Robertson to hold off the fast charging Karkner for the second half of the race.
I think Bob Kern's out of fuel. Oh my, he's stuttering along at about 130, desperately trying to get himself over. Now, he has two options here. He can either flick it right and try and serve either a slowdown penalty or a penalty that iRacing gives, or he's going to do this option, which is hit down the hill, but he's got one big worry about taking it down the hill with no fuel here, Neil. He's got to get back up it again.
Yes, and it looks like it is getting slower. He was in the top 10. He was in 10th place when it appears he's had this trouble, but it looks like he may have just been a couple of litres short. The engine is still purring. He is just going along at 50 clicks or so at the moment, but is slowing quite dramatically as he comes up the hill.
I think he's going to run out of gas by the time he gets up there, and I wonder if he should have taken one of the escape roads. He would have served the penalty quick enough, and I think maybe Bob Kern will understand that. Sometimes it's okay to take a shortcut. You'll be slow enough anyway, and he will be classed as one lap down unless Larry Thomas gives him a little bit of help at the end. And the answer for Larry Thomas, I think he's seeing the stricken car and he goes, well, I'm sorry, mate. That's your luck, unfortunately. So Bob Kern pretty much out on his feet. That's the final lasting image for his season, and that will be very disappointing. But final results, well, they'll be up on your screen right about now. 19.9 seconds over 20 laps. That's the gap that Stefan Rosgen made at a second a lap, and sometimes a little bit more. He dominated today at Donington with Van der Ven second and Mark Robertson holding off a late challenge from Stephen Karkner, who finishes in 4th place. John Morgan finishes 5th with John Unsby in 6th. Franz Brink finishes in 7th with Bill Lawrence charging his way up to 8th. Gerard Florison goes home 9th with Richard Coulomb rounding out the top 10. David Riley finishes 11th with Gianni Raspado in 12th. Joel Martin and PJ Sally finish. Bob Kern runs out of fuel though on the final lap. It will be 15th for him with William Stark, Richard Vad, Kenneth Baldwin and Wally Molesby at 1 lap down, along with Mark Lazon and Ralph Kemmerer. 2 laps down for Andrew Fiddler, 3 for Larry Thomas, and the only non-finisher here in this second race is Remigio de Pasqua. That pretty much calls it time on the season in terms of driving. But Neil, you found Stefan Rosgen here, and he must be a very happy boy.
Yes, Stefan Rosgen, of course, winner again here in race 2, and doing it in an even more dominating fashion than race 1. Tell us about your race, because it looked pretty easy from here.
Well, the sad thing is I cannot tell so much because it went very easy. I drove from the top and didn't make too many big mistakes, and so everything went fine.
Again, doing that double win, of course, managing to do that double win and double pole, probably double fastest lap. I haven't quite checked. Of course, that's got to be a really good feeling.
Yes, yes, again, I'm a happy man.
So, yes, just finally, anyone that you'd like to mention? Seems like the season is over.
Yeah, I think I did have some good competition in the season, especially by Bill Lawrence and by Jos and Stephen Clark now. And I'm looking forward to the next one and all the good stuff here with RaceSpotTV.
Excellent. Thank you very much for joining us, Stefan. As I believe now, Jake, you have the person that did finish in second place, Jos van der Ven.
I did, and well, Jos, it was a great race from your perspective. You had yourself a very, very solid drive. You got yourself into second position after a big charge in the opening race. But for you, second position, 20 seconds off of a race victory. Do you feel like next season you need to find something to curb, shall we say, the driver that should be or is champion, and you know you want to get that championship picture back?
Well, indeed, Stefan is some kind of alien. He was way too fast, but this season I think I beat him once or twice in a race, so there are possibilities.
There are possibilities, and it's not often that you get the word alien branded out left and right, but Jos, it got close towards the end for you. You had a nice little gap, maybe easing off the throttle a little bit, but you did have, shall we say, a not so healthy buffer behind to the likes of Robertson and Karkner behind you.
Yeah, at the first laps we were battling, but after Steven pitted early, I had some clean air and I could drive my own race. I had a good pace, I think, but not enough to catch Stefan. And after that, they were 2 or 3 seconds behind me, and I could leave that gap in 2 or 3 seconds.
You've been up at the top of the field in 60 plus for a number of seasons, and as a driver who is well experienced in the Pro Mazda, has had victories in the Pro Mazda, and has pretty much been one of the staple fixtures of this 60 plus Racing Adventures League. How difficult is it knowing that you are seeing drivers coming into the 60 plus league? You got some drivers who are 59 turning 60 who will want to get into a series like this. You got the drivers who are getting older and older. In terms of a community, is it more than just racing for you?
Well, I love to be amongst guys of my own age, of course. That's better to compare yourself to other racers, but for the rest, it's just a race for me.
It may just be a race, but for you, Jos, any shout outs to sponsors after a second place finish?
Well, my sponsor is my dearest wife, and I want to thank her for letting me doing this. And of course, I want to thank everyone who is make this league possible.
No worries at all. Jos van der Ven coming home in second position. Neil, you've caught up with Mark Robertson, who's come home in third.
Of course, Mark, there we go. A fantastic way to finish off the season. A double podium, a double third place. But this time you had a very nice battle with Stephen Karkner. Tell us about your race.
Yeah, things got exciting right from the start. I don't know if Stephen was sleeping a little bit, but I kind of made a move on him. Of course, what didn't take long that I had a little off track and they got back around. But he came up at the end of the race there. We had a good battle there at the end, next to the last corner especially. It was pretty exciting.
So, of course, for most of the race, you didn't really know where Stephen was because he did the very early pit stop. He came in on lap 6. Obviously, you waited until a little bit later in the race. So during that sort of like middle period of the race, were you just keeping a little eye on where he was using the relative?
Well, not really, but whenever he did get behind me, I saw where he was. I was trying to pressure him into making a mistake, so he wasn't going to have any of that. He took an early pit stop and got out of the pressure cooker there, and so I tried to make up some time on Joss, and I think I ended up very lengthy off track trying to get it gathered up and back on the track again, so I never got back with them.
So, is there how has the season overall gone for you?
Well, the first half of the season, I kind of felt like I was in a little bit of a slump, and it seems like I kind of got back to where I kind of like to be towards the second half of the season. So I don't know where I'm going to end up in the championship, but hopefully I'll be in the top 5. It's been a whole lot of fun. I just want to shout out to Joe, Mark, John, everybody that makes this league happen, all the work they put in. It's just a fantastic amount of fun with a bunch of great guys.
Excellent. Thank you very much for joining us, Mark, and well done on your 3rd place finish.
Yeah, I'd like to thank RaceSpot too for all the excellent coverage you give us. I like to be able to show my family and friends, give them an idea of what it is I do in this little room here. So, great job, guys. Thanks.
Well, that's not a worry at all. Mark Robertson coming home in 3rd position, but that's lights out for the season then in terms of racing action. So it means that we have to say our thank yous to everyone at the 60 Plus Racing Adventures League for another great season. But of course, there are more than just them who get it done for us here at RaceSpotTV. First and foremost, to Adwell Designs, the official graphics partners here at RaceSpotTV, along with ATVO and Engineer, the official graphics engine. You've got the live timing and scoring, which is brought to you thanks to Nick Disson, and of course with animations brought by Simon Grossman, and cameras by TrackCams22 and Istvan Ballo. Make sure that you check them out. But of course, it's not over here on RaceSpotTV. Oh no, far from it in terms of this weekend's action. For example, we got the final round of the VRS GT World Championship, which is going to prove to be important. The Nürburgring is the final battleground. Coanda, FA Racing G2, or even Pure Racing Team. Which one is going to take it? Maybe even Williams could have a shout in long and short. The 5th round of McLaren Shadow, the final round of the MP430, comes into play at Interlagos, as well as the Skip Barber 2K World Cup, which will come on a random track indeed. And of course, later on tonight, eNASCAR Ignite Series, Playoff 2 at Irwindale. Evan Pasoko and Justin Prince will be seeing who the best 13 to 16-year-olds are going to be, as well as round 7 of the iRacing Rallycross Championship from Lucas Oil Raceway. So much happening on RaceSpotTV, as well as the iRacing Esports Network, but here on RaceSpotTV, that's Neil Heatley, that's Hugo Louise behind the cameras. I'm #DoYouMind Jake Sperry, the observer of Sim Racing. Championship secured for Stefan Rosgen, and he does it back to back. It's as easy as you like, but this is Sim Racing, and someone will be charging for that title next season. Sayonara.